Attention and Memory: How to Improve Memory with Aging by Ashley Leveille.
And Precious Morales.
What comes to mind when you think of the word memory? When I think of the word memory, I think of losing your keys and not being able to remember things. What about you?
When it comes to memory, I often think of my grandma who suffered with dementia and how she quickly lost sight of who the people around her were and how fast that happens.
I didn't even know that. You know, my grandmother suffers from dementia as well.
With my grandmother as well, she got it fairly quickly, very young, like around 60, and it just progressed very fast after she had a bad fall. And
Oh my goodness. Yes.
yeah, it was definitely the fall that made her progress so fast, and then the doctors didn't she was in home hospice for 2 years, and the doctors didn't even think she would make it the first year. So, it
That-
was while it progressed very fast, it was also, like, her time with it slowed down, if that makes any sense. She was with it for a long time, but it also progressed very fast.
No, the same thing happened. The same thing happened with us. Like my grandmother's like 85. And so she was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And I knew that like with Parkinson's, it's either eventually the dementia will come. It's either a result of or it would come. And she fell one time and it was like a complete, like different person. Like literally she was like recalling memories that like I wouldn't even know, like I don't even think I was born. And she would say certain things that just did not make sense. She would start crying. And it came to a point where, like, that whole year, we were making plans to really say goodbye to her because it just seemed like she was just slowly going before our eyes. It's like, yeah, I don't wish that on anyone. It's like the scariest thing.
It is really scary, and from with my grandma, we first noticed it when she was cooking and she was missing certain steps, like, she would make chicken, but she wouldn't season it, or she would leave the stove on, and obviously, that's really dangerous.
Mhm.
So, once we noticed that was happening more often, we took her to the doctor, and the doctor diagnosed her with dementia, and it was after that fall, it was just very rapid
Ooh,
decline.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, because I don't think people realize how, like, it really is stressful. Like,
It is.
my grandma was talking to a teddy bear and was telling me that I need to hold on to the teddy bear and watch the baby's head. And she was very serious. Like I think like her thought process was I wasn't sure if this was like a baby that she knew growing up, but she really thought the teddy bear was the baby.
Yep, my grandma, this last Christmas was not 2022, but 2021, I believe, was her last Christmas with us. And
Oh,
she had asked for a doll for Christmas because she said that she wanted a baby. So we got her a doll. And it was kind of, I think with dementia, they're like the kind of end of it. I was researching my own research, and it kind of brings you back to when you were little,
oh
and,
my gosh.
the mind just thinks about things like having a baby or like having a doll and
That is
wanting that
true.
comfort.
Whew, wow. I think it's like crazy how similar the stories are. Yeah.
Yeah. It's always so crazy meeting somebody with the same experience as you because I feel like it's not really talked about. Like, people I don't really meet that many people who know somebody who has suffered with dementia or know a lot about dementia. So when I do meet somebody, I think it's like you don't feel alone, like you have a connection with
Yes.
somebody else.
No, seriously, because like, no, seriously. Because half the people won't even believe it, like when you kind of tell them. And then I feel like you have to get it to actually be in that situation.
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Okay, so our next slide, what is memory? Memory is the most important cognitive ability we have. Memory is the ongoing process of information retention over time. We use memory as clearly as the first 5 years of our lives to understand learning concepts as children, and our memory makes it possible to continue our daily lives most of the time without significant problems.
So, how does memory actually work? The memory works with a three-step process. The first is encoding, which is the process that information is learned, understood, and processed. Then there's storage, the how, where, and how much the encoded information will be retained within the memory system, and that is between long-term and short-term memory. And then you have retrieval, which is the process in which humans retrieve or recall stored information. And with memories, it's all about making the connections within your brain.
So, what happens to memory as humans age? As we age, our ability to learn and remember things change. So, our ability to remember new information peaks at our 20s and then slowly starts to decline from 50s to 60s. Also, as people grow older, they might experience psychological changes that can cause glitches in the brain, such as the ability to remember. So some can experience a decrease in blood flow to the brain, impairing the memory and leading to cognitive skills. It might take longer to retrieve or recall information, where the memory will still be in that brain, but it just might be harder to assess. So I guess, like, for example, I guess I could say, I guess you could use like a cooking recipe. Like, imagine cooking sweet potato pie every year for Thanksgiving and knowing exactly what to put in it, but slowly over time, you know the information is still there, but it's kind of hard to recall what the recipe and the steps were.
I agree. So, with memory and age, for most people in the aging, as you age, you get occasional lapses in short-term memory, and that's completely normal. But there are some signs to look for of severe mental deterioration that will drastically impact your ability to remember and memorize things. And the most common memory disorder among people who are 65 and older are dementia and Alzheimer's.
Yes. So now we are on the Alzheimer's and dementia slide. So, under Alzheimer's, the most common memory disorder among people 65 and older is actually dementia and Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is a debilitating disease not only for the ones diagnosed, but also for the caregivers. I think that we shared that a little bit when we talked about our experiences dealing with our grandmothers.
Yes, it was a very I was her caregiver for those 2 years that she very badly declined, and it was just as much of a toll on her as it was on myself.
It Okay, is it fair to say, okay, I don't want to say this. I do want to say it, but is it fair to say traumatizing in a sense? Because it's like my grandmother raised me, so I don't mind doing for her, but I was like picking, like I was literally washing her, bathing her. And of course, if they're bedridden, there's like sores you have to like take care of.
Absolutely. It was
Yeah.
absolutely traumatizing because I was in the same boat. I helped with my mom, of course, helped wash my grandmother. And when it came to the point where we could no longer actually bring her to the bathroom, we had to do kind of like sponge baths in her actual room. And that was always a process because she could no longer stand up by herself. So we would have to either hold her up or
Yes.
wash her on the bed. And it was just a very tedious process that it was nonstop because it's just nonstop care. You have to feed them, bathe them, give them their administer their medicines, make sure that you're turning them in bed so they don't get those bed sores.
Yeah.
It's it's a whole mental process and it is very mentally draining, especially when, the patient with the dementia, they don't know what's going on, and so they can't verbalize things that they need in the same way when when the disease wasn't attacking them in such a way. So it's very hard in that sense too, where they can't communicate. You're frustrated, but you're not frustrated at them. You're just frustrated at the
Yes.
situation that you're placed in.
No, I agree. I think it came to a point like for a whole month. So I was like transporting my daughter to, like, I would bring my daughter to school, then quickly I would bring my daughter to school, then quickly have to go to my grandmother. So then what ended up happening was I would not sleep. I would sleep on the recliner right next to the bed. And granted, she was losing weight. So, like, let's say she was ranging from anywhere from like 90 to like 110 pounds. But
Mhm.
anywhere from 90 and 110 pounds of dead weight is heavy. Like, she would
Yes.
not move, like she couldn't move, but it was like heavy. Yeah. Yeah. I think that um when dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia, I think that not only do you think about the person that is diagnosed, but also the family. Yeah, the family who serves as caregivers and even the caregivers who has it as a profession. So, more than 6.2 million Americans are currently living with Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's disease is a progressive brain disorder that impacts memory, the ability to think, retain old and new information, and perform daily tasks. An example, brushing teeth. Also, trouble effectively communicating and using appropriate words. Now, where we have dementia, the most common memory disorder, the same as Alzheimer's is dementia. Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause of dementia. Dementia is a general term that describes a wide range of symptoms associated with a decline in memory or other thinking skills, including judgment, reasoning, and complex motor skills.
So, as far as improving memory as you age, there was a study that inquired about blueberries. So, as the number of elderly adults grow, dementia is becoming more and more common. So, there are preventative measures that are crucial in the absence of efficient treatment to deal with this issue. So, there was a study that um, blueberry supplements can improve the neurocognitive function and provide a framework for future human studies to investigate the neural process. And the component found in blueberries has that antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties that bring higher neural signaling into the brain and can help control memory functions and bring a bunch of other positive effects.
Okay, so improving memory as you go, the continuation, an executive function known as switching, also known as set shifting, entails the capacity to unintentionally move attention between tasks. Studies show that high process abilities that are pertinent to future memory performances appear to operate as safeguards against future memory declining people of age. You know what I was also thinking about in regards to improving memory as you age? Because correct me if I'm wrong, there is not a cure for Alzheimer's or dementia, right?
No, there is not.
And I know that they were saying that like as you age, like as you age, memory loss is common. It might not be dementia or Alzheimer's, but it could just be because, you get older and a lot of the stuff that we listed before. So I heard that, well, I read that you could, have you ever heard of peppermint to keep you like sharp and remember
Yes,
certain things, like having it before
yes,
a test so you can remember?
yes. Actually, when I was in elementary school and we had to do those state tests, my teachers would give us peppermint before, and it could be a placebo effect or it could be, actually helping us. But I do remember them doing that to
I
help us with our memory.
I was reading also like when we were doing this. Well, we came across stress, thinking about stress, eliminating stress as a way to um, prolong your memory. And there was stress, different foods, having a good diet. It's always what I find is it always comes down to you have to make sure you have a good diet in order to um in order to retain your memory. And I'm laughing at it, but it might be true. Like I don't doubt it could be true. Like you take care of your body and then your body takes care of you. And
Definitely.
have you heard of the word puzzles? Like doing word puzzles or crossword puzzles to stay sharp, like doing different things to keep your mind constantly thinking and moving
Yes.
will
Yes.
help in it. So yeah, what do we have next?
Next is just our references.
Our references. So yes, thank you again. We hope that we provided a lot of information to first help understand what memory is, how memory loss does affect the aging community, what diseases affect memory loss, and different ways to aid towards memory.
Yep, and I hope that our conversation about our similar experiences also brought some more light to what dementia really is and how it can affect all parties and not just the individual suffering with dementia, and how badly that needs to be spoken about, and just how badly dementia should be more researched and spoken about in general.
That is really true. Yes, that's really true.